Here we are on a Tuesday night, long way from Monday at 9 a.m., 1 p.m. Eastern time when this legal tampering started. How's it going?
Yeah, I'm exhausted. That's for sure. But yeah, legal tampering did start on March 13th on Monday, 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. So it kind of got everything ready to rock. We did see some big moves happen, especially for the Raiders, and going into Tuesday when we are recording.
Welcome back to another edition of the Raider Take podcast. I am Micah McDonald. With me, as always, is Andy McDonald. Things are going down. Free agency is underway. A lot of things shaking. A lot of things jucking. A lot of things jiving. A lot of things going on in general. And I'm just kind of rambling on. But Andrew, how are you? Here we are on a Tuesday night, long way from Monday at 9 a.m., 1 p.m. Eastern time when this legal tampering started.
Yeah, I'm exhausted. That's for sure. But yeah, legal tampering did start on March 13th on Monday, 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. So it kind of got everything ready to rock. We did see some big moves happen, especially for the Raiders, and going into Tuesday when we are recording, March 14th, there has been some additional moves that we're going to touch on. So it's been fascinating. It's been confusing. It's been a very Raiders off season within the first 48 hours. So all that to say is I'm doing well, my friend.
So the first huge, giant news to drop: Jared Stidham signs a 2-year, $10 million deal with the Broncos to be a backup. That in itself was telling on where the direction the Raiders might be headed. We've had talks that they were trying to potentially work out a deal at some point, right? He must have got the word that he just wasn't going to be the starter. They wanted him as some backup role. But Raiders go out and they sign none other than your arch nemesis, James Garoppolo III. Don't think that's what it is, but Jimmy Garoppolo, former Niners quarterback. Give him 3 years, $67.5 million with $34 million guaranteed. Breaks down to about $22.5 a year.
Yeah, I guess I haven't always been the biggest supporter of Jimmy G, right? Just call a spade, right? I do think that the contract that we were able to come to an agreement on was fair, and also allowed us to be a little bit more aggressive in free agency, which is nice. But even then, seeing that, it was like the worst news I could ever receive. I'm like, this is my nightmare. I texted you that. I'm like, this is my nightmare, because I don't, as far as the options are concerned, right? I would have probably felt a little bit uneasy not signing a quarterback going into through free agency and going into the draft and being able to be like, hey, we got to draft a quarterback and he's our guy kind of deal. I think Jimmy G, there's a lot of ways to spin this, which I've actually really battled myself on. I'm like, hey, this actually could work out. It's like a team friendly deal. And, he can sit in the pocket and throw it. And it's only a 1-year deal, not a 4-year deal. I've talked myself all the way across, this deal and as far as what it could be, but I don't like him. I don't, Micah, and I think why I don't like him is because during the Niners run where they're in the Super Bowl and they have Jimmy G, they're like, oh, he's basically Joe Montana. I'm like, he's not, and they're like, he's the best, Jimmy G, re-sign him. And I'm like, well, okay, think about your defense, think about Kyle Shanahan, you guys run the ball 40 times a game. There's a lot of different things that we could, whatever. And I was so negative, and you could pull the clips. We have a lot of information around my feelings on Jimmy G. And now he's a Raider. So I can't help but just say, like, he's going to be okay for us, like he's going to be fine. Like he's going to be a bridge quarterback. I still think that the Raiders are going to be aggressive and try to trade up and find a quarterback in this draft, and find his successor. But ultimately, like this sucks for me, because I'm like, this is my arch nemesis of Jimmy G. Like I'm like, I never wanted to have this conversation. I'm like, he's not going to be a Raider. Like, there's a lot of ties with McDaniels and whatnot. And they're like, yeah, no Tom Brady, no Aaron Rodgers. We're not going to trade up, even though we wanted to. So we're going to settle for Jimmy G, and here we are. So it's a humbling moment for myself. And I'm going to have to somehow spin some positivity, especially not even right now, right? It's more like future Andy is going to have to figure out how to find some positivity as far as when we get into the games. Like Jimmy G can just like throw it 20 times a game, and like as long as we can establish the run with Jacobs and he can get Devontae Adams open, like those things, like that's what's going to happen to me soon. So yeah, I think I'm lost. I think I'm in this this spin zone of like, hey man, the guy that you hated. Well, now you're gonna have to find some things that you like about him. I'm like, I don't want to, but here we are. So
I think where we are at this point in time, what our options were, right? There was a material change, obviously, in our plan from the point that Carr got benched to now. For our options at the moment, I think potentially best option available. Would I like to just go all out and just go snag Lamar, right? That would be dope. But when it comes to this team is going to go and they're going to get a rookie quarterback, whether it's this year or next year, hoping that they're all in on just fucking jumping, right? Jumping up to the top or jumping up close to get one of these top 3 guys that aren't Will Levis. I just think that for the right now, like he's not our long-term answer, right? This 3 years is a bridge years. He knows the system. I think it was the best veteran option available. As unfortunate as it is for this podcast, it was the best veteran option available. And from all the reports on, what Jimmy G's camp is expecting in a contract, I mean, it's $10 million less than what the reports were, right? Per year, at least. There was reports saying that he'd be willing to take 25, for the right situation or whatnot, and then we get him for 22.5. So I don't know. Like you said, there's a lot of spin zoning that you can do, but I don't think that this is a downgrade from Carr at all, going with Jimmy G. I think at worst it's a lateral movement with a better contract. So, before you jump into that, I just want to throw this out there. Was asked to do an article for Just Blog Baby, right? Grading this. I just argued all the points that were in the article, but I gave it an optimistic B-.
yeah, actually, I had some reservations regarding that. You did address all of the concerns, and then I'm like, I don't think B- is optimistic, and I'm not like attacking you by any means, but I do think that if you're like it's a B+, like it's a A-, like that would be optimistic. I do think it's a good deal. Like I think it's a good deal for us. Like I think with what we're actually like kind of like factored into, like with the Raiders, and like they're like, hey, he's like a year 1 starter. We know that. And then also like if we want to get out in year 2, we can. And if we want to get out in year 3, it's going to be easy, right? So there's a lot about the contract that makes sense. So as far as your optimism goes, I would say like just bump the thing up, B+, right? But I do agree with you that like this is basically like our best option at this point, and we had to make a move, and we did. And I think I'm happy that they at least did something, and they're like, hey, this is going to buy us time, especially because the Panthers traded up from 9 to 1, right? So then that basically put us in no man's land as far as like finding a quarterback is concerned. Like there's a lot of different options we can trade up to 3, but there's a lot more room that we have to make up as far as like getting that quarterback. So having someone like Jimmy G, even though his injury history and my history with him is not very positive, I would just say that it's the best move for us right now. And so, I think that's all I have to say about the war in Vietnam.
Yeah, well, we can just touch on some quick stuff. So another Patriot coming on over. Jakobi Meyers signs a deal with the Raiders. I don't remember the terms of that agreement. I think maybe $22 million was guaranteed.
It was 3 for 33.
Yes.
And then it was 22 guaranteed. So could be looked at as a 3 for 22 or a 2 for 22 kind of deal. But 11 APV basically that we're gonna have to take on, but it's also how it's structured. So I think there's it's like lesser on the front end, and then we have some guaranteed money. But Jakobi Meyers.
Too many Jacobis that used to play for the Patriots.
There's one too many Jacobis. But yeah, Jakobi Meyers coming over to the Raiders. So I think he feels the need, but yeah, we'd love to hear your take on that.
Yeah, no, I think it's definitely a good signing. I know people have their reservations about his ability to throw laterals backwards, but I think it is a good signing because if you look at where the Raiders sit currently, Devontae Adams and Hunter Renfrow are the only receivers that caught passes in 2022 that are currently still on the roster. So receiver was actually like a low-key need for the Raiders, big-time need for the Raiders. And he can be a legitimate, number 2 guy. He has played a lot in the slot. So, people are kind of wondering what does that do with Renfrow. But you always have a lot of these like 3 wide sets, 4 wide sets. We have one less receiver at the tight end position now, which we will touch on later. But I think that it just gives us another weapon, another guy we can actually put on the outside while Renfro's in the slot and just kind of, move people around. I think it's a good weapon. I think it's a good amount of money, like good contract for the weapon that we're getting. And, it's not a lot of people like it because we're in like the Raiders need defense. They're supposed to be spending money on defense and free agency. And then here we are out here signing wide receivers. But I think it is a very good fit for the Raiders. I think it'll be something we look back on and be like, damn, like I'm glad we went out and did that. That was like I'm going to like compare this to a Nelson Aguilar type of like snag where it's like, went out and did it, got him, like, I don't know about this, and then just balls out and just like has a great year. So
yeah, I'm with you on that. Like I think that as much as we have other needs, on the defense side, like he is going to be a great number 2, and really is going to complement Renfrow in a different way. Like everyone's going to be able to be like, oh, well, he played in the slot, predominantly, in New England and whatnot. But like he's also like a big play receiver where he can go up and catch the ball in the end zone, like a red zone target. I think that McDaniel is going to move him around in a lot of different ways. And I think, as much as it might feel like Renfro's on the hot seat in that sense, which we'll get to, and another Raider that's no longer on the team. I think that it makes sense as far as like what we're trying to build. So yeah, I'm good with it. I think it was a good deal, and like he was a top receiver in this market. So we'll take it for $11 million a year, and really I think that cap hit is actually like 7. So, but yeah, Jakobi Meyers coming to the Raiders, not Jacoby Brissett, by the way.
Okay, so getting into probably the biggest Raider news, Jimmy Garoppolo dropped on Monday, right? Today, news dropped that the Raiders, Dave Ziegler, and Josh McDaniels have traded Darren Waller to the New York Jets for third round pick, number 100 overall, which is actually
New York Giants, by the way.
New York Giants, not the Jets. Thank you for the correction, sir. It is actually the pick that they got from the Chiefs for Kadarius Toney. So Waller's gone a week after getting married to someone else who lives in Vegas. Andrew, let's just go through quick for me. Your thoughts when this happened, where you're at on this trade. There's a lot of spin zones we could have, I'm sure, but just first thoughts from this going down.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I was very surprised. He was someone that we were always like trying to trade, and I think that you can look at his injury history and look at production and evaluate that and be like, okay, what is his actual worth? I still think that it was kind of shocking when we had moved on from Carr and then also like supported Waller and Renfro and like those guys being like, hey, these guys are our future. Josh Jacobs, he's going to be a part of this plan. And then we end up trading him for a third round pick with no context, which we don't deserve the context, right? Like we're just fans and we're like, hey, give us more. What the heck? You just said like 2 weeks ago, you were at his wedding, Josh McDaniels, like give us a little bit more, here. But I think it was a little bit surprising. A top 100 pick being the number 100th pick, and like, is that really a top 100 pick? You can spin on that however you like, but ultimately I do. It sucks because I love Waller. I do. I love Waller. I love what he was able to provide to us when he was healthy. I do think that he's like this additional third round pick is going to allow us to like maybe matriculate our way and like move up in the draft to draft a quarterback. So if that is the case, then great. I'm happy with that.
If you go check out our Twitter account, we retweeted the Sports Podcast Group official tweet about all the short lists on where you can find the link, where you can go in and vote. Please go vote for us. This would be awesome. If we could call ourselves the champions in this round, but it feels great just to even be nominated. But nonetheless, go in and vote. Check it out. Follow the link. You can only vote once, so get your kids, your wife, your husband. Don't hide them. Get them to vote and help us out. Show us some love.